What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into Neverlag. We're back at it. It's been a minute. We're gonna knock the rust off, and it's time to complain and critique, and maybe even just be a little bit excited. I don't know. We'll see if that could possibly be the case. But this is going to be a bit of a state of the industry episode. We haven't done one of these in a little while. Pretty sure last time we did this, we were complaining about Sony, probably Sony.
Us. Yeah,
So
probably.
this time we're going to shake things up. But I will pose the major question to you, Zach. The larger than life question. What is the state of the industry? One word.
Bad.
No, I'm just kidding.
Just kidding.
Oh, there you go. You did it.
Bad. No, I actually don't think the state of the industry. I think complicated is probably a better word.
That is probably the right word. Yeah.
I would say the state of the industry is complicated because of capitalism, and the state of capitalism is bad. That's the way I would
That's fair
phrase
enough.
it. Not to get too Marxist here, folks, but yeah, we're in this weird place where there are a lot of great games being made, but there are a lot of egregious business practices and decisions, very extortionary mindsets that these corporations have towards monetizing and games. And then we have issues with distribution, and then we have global macroeconomic issues like tariffs that are potentially
messing with our games.
So there's a lot going on. Complicated.
So this is mainly we're going to be talking mainly about the Nintendo, everything Nintendo, because we've held off until most of the Nintendo information now is pretty much out there. It was kind of a wild roller coaster there for the last about 3 weeks,
3-4 weeks.
We got that Nintendo Direct. And then everything that followed, and all the information that wasn't there, all the information that was kind of there or that we found out later. We got our Mario Kart Direct, and then all of the, the pre-orders canceled. The pre-orders are back. So plenty to talk about with Nintendo, when it comes to the pricing of things, but also just the games and also just the industry at large. There's a lot to discuss here, and a couple little extra bits as well that are not Nintendo related, but I think could factor into the discussion in an interesting way. So to start, I think we should start with the Direct. That's where we started. I think it was it April 3rd?
April 2nd. Right. It was the day, because it was April 2nd because it was the day after, like I think they moved it because of April Fools. So
gotcha.
I want to say April 2nd, which is,
and yet they still made fools of us. No, just kidding. So yeah, just starting with the Direct. We tried to make arrangements to watch it together. You were busy, couldn't watch it till later. I ended up watching it remotely, or is that the right phrasing? Remotely with my brother, with Calvin. Mm-hmm. And because we kind of wanted to, share the Direct and respond in real time, and yeah, it was interesting. I'll tell you what, it was worth doing. It was worth sitting down because
I wish
for me personally, I was. That was a roller coaster for me as well on this Direct, because it started off, I thought, pretty great, hit a lot of notes I liked. I even felt the pacing was pretty good. All in all, like, if I could take some of my personal emotion out of it, I would feel like this Direct was a solid 8.5 out of 10. Like, I thought it was really pretty good, and it had some cool moments, some good games coming to be excited about.
Yeah.
Some surprises. But man, the moment for me that we both, me and Calvin, we just were like jaw dropped, confounded, was the From Software announcement near the back end. It was like the three quarter
Mm-hmm.
through the broad, or the Direct, and we get what looks like, and everyone, the entire world's watching this going, is this because at first I've heard a lot of people say, oh, it looks like Castlevania. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with that franchise. Excuse me. But the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, no, that's not FromSoft. Like, it looks a little bit different. And then you watch a little bit more and you're like, no, this looks like FromSoft. This looks like Bloodborne. Yeah. This looks like Elden Ring Bloodborne. Like, are we getting Bloodborne 2? And I turn to Calvin and I say, no, we're not getting Bloodborne 2. It's going to be called something else because it's at Nintendo. Bloodborne's been tied up for a decade for who knows what reason, with Sony. It's going to be called something else. And then the the bombshell at the end, though, the Nintendo, I think it says Switch 2 exclusive.
Switch 2
And we were
exclusive.
both just like, what on earth is happening? Um, Huge get for Nintendo. I mean, no
Humongous.
issue there. They probably, I mean, FromSoft probably took the bag to get that, but
Yeah.
it did leave me just like very confused about a lot of things. Like, where if it's so off brand for Nintendo, so clearly they're changing their shift in kind of their how they want to be seen tonally in the industry
Yeah.
with this step up in hardware, it seems, and they want to be seen as a third party place where games like Cyberpunk 2027, which was also here in Elden Ring, can come to, and it
Mm-hmm.
can be seen because. Which is really interesting to me because for the longest time we've seen the Switch as kind of the little brother to the consoles, not engaging in the war, but everyone's got two of them. And
Yeah.
to me, that's the sweet spot. Why would you try and get out of that?
But are
I don't
they
know.
trying? I feel
I
like
don't
they're
know.
not trying to get out of it so much as they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. The
We have
question
their, but can
is,
you ever do that?
that's the question. I don't
So,
know.
anyways,
Has
we can
anyone
dig
ever
into
done it?
that. That was just kind of my like. That was the moment of the direct where I was like, I mean, we didn't recover for the end of the direct. We were
Yeah.
just sitting there
Just-
thinking,
that
mulling
was
this
it.
over. Like,
You missed. You had to like start it over because it was yeah.
what did we just witness with this reveal? So,
I mean
you can take off from there. You can, if there's some other moment from the direct, just give me your overall thoughts on
that
it.
was a big one because I was not expecting anything from Soft. Other I was expecting Elden Ring to be like a third party supported with the new hardware. Totally expecting that. And I can't remember, was the Elden Ring, did they show Elden Ring before that?
Yeah, I believe
I think
so.
they did because I remember being like, okay, we got our Elden Ring. So I was totally blindsided by because this thing starts playing and I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool. Within a few seconds, I was like, this looks like a FromSoft game. And then I was like, but like, what would this be? They already did Elden Ring. I was like, they have Night Rain coming out this year. I was like, surely they don't have something new that's just on Switch. And then it keeps going, and I was like, this looks like Bloodborne, but like a little different. But it looked close enough that I was like, maybe this is like Bloodborne reimagined, like so that they can get out of the IP.
Bloodborne 2 in
And the
quotes.
more I saw, I was like, yeah, I had something similar. Like one of the animations reminded me of Elden Ring, and then the all stylistically everything reminded me of Bloodborne. And I was like, oh my god, we're getting Bloodborne 2 or the spiritual successor to Bloodborne. Um, and then it says switch to exclusive, and it was like, you know, I was planning on getting a Switch 2 either way. So it's like, you know, I guess I'll still be able to play it. And the Switch 2 is a lot more powerful, so it'll probably run fairly well. But that kind of gave me then that mixed feeling of, you know, oh dang, like I'd like the option to play that on PC. And also like it's so weird that they got a FromSoft exclusive on Switch. It's like just not the combo you'd expect. It'll work. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
Switch is hugely popular, FromSoft's hugely popular, and I think the play is clear. They're trying to capture that different type of audience and show them we want you on this device. I think they are trying to become more predominant.
yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like
It's interesting. I do think that the amount of people that will purchase a Switch 2 just to play this game is not insignificant.
I agree with that.
I think there's probably a million, I don't know, give or take above, below a million ish people who
Yeah.
literally will purchase a Switch 2 because of this game where they wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of
Um,
those gamers where they might like the idea of having a Switch, but this is like going to be that deal breaker where they're like, you know what, I'm just going to get it because I have to play that game. And then once you're in the Switch world, you're like, well, I might as well spend $8,000 on Mario Kart. You know,
yeah.
win in Rome.
So for Nintendo, I think it makes a ton of sense. I get it. It's weird. I wonder if at the end of this generation, are we going to see Nintendo differently? I mean, we kind of already do after these last few weeks, but
Yeah,
like, are we going to look at Nintendo more as, okay, Nintendo now is the direct competitor to Sony, where we kind of felt like at the close slash mid generation point a year or two ago that Xbox and Nintendo and Sony were all just doing different things
I was going in
completely.
totally. Yeah,
And
it's
now it kind
feeling
of feels
like
like Nintendo's filling Xbox's shoes, where Xbox has stepped away into just kind of the
yeah,
meta gaming, like everything is an Xbox, no exclusive situation. Maybe Nintendo is now
yeah.
the Sony competitor.
That's what it feels like because Nintendo already has a sense of exclusive titles. And now if they
Stronger
manage
than
to
Sony at this point, honestly.
stronger than Sony, yeah. And now that they're dabbling with exclusive third-party titles in addition to that, that starts to feel like they are very much competing with Sony. Sony has been trying to get into the handheld market as well with
Yeah.
their like little streaming device, and I think there's been talks of like a more dedicated portable device, and the Switch 2
Yeah.
is that, and now the Switch 2 is pretty powerful. In docked mode has pretty decent specs.
I
It's
mean,
not quite on
if the
par with
Switch 2, if
PS5,
the
but
Switch 2 can play new releases decently docked and then plays them pretty well, like it's got 120 FPS and you can just pop that out and play it
yeah,
like that all of a sudden, because honestly, if you took the PS5 and said, you know what, a year from now, 2 years from now, Sony says we're coming out with a handheld that is roughly as powerful as the base PS5, but it can also be played remotely. I would be like, win, total
win.
win. Like, I want that. And that's kind of what the Switch maybe promises to be.
Yeah,
So yeah, really interesting to see how this is going to play out. From the FromSoft side of things, though, what the heck? I don't.
there must have been an insane
My
amount of money involved.
confidence. Yeah, no, not just the Switch exclusive part, but the game. So for context, it came out that this is a PvPvE multiplayer game as well. It's different from Elden Ring because I don't believe, or I mean, Night Rain, because there's no PvP in Night Rain, I believe. But just
Yeah,
not what
that
I
brought me
want.
back.
Just not what I want. Like I went from
Yeah,
like, how is this a Switch 2 exclusive? I don't want to play this on the Switch 2 necessarily. And then I found out what it was, and I'm like, I don't even think I want to play this actually. How did they manage to make a Bloodborne successor that I don't want to play? And for me,
yeah,
it's just kind of left me like my confidence in FromSoft is it's wavering at this point because Night Rain already for me was kind of like, what are we doing? What are we doing from Soft? Like, we don't need a Fortnite roguelite from you. Like, that's you're the last developer I would want that from. But you know what? If you're just hodgepodging some assets together and trying to, make your books look good for a year in between while you're working on the next new big thing or two, fine, whatever. I'll check it out. I'm sure it's fun. But now with this game, I can't even. The name is so forgettable to me. It's Duskblood.
the Dusk Bloods.
The Duskbloods. I maybe it's just me. I feel like that's a terrible name. I can't ever remember it. But with this game now, it's like, all right, there's two years in a row, FromSoft is going to be releasing multiplayer and in this case even competitive PvP
Yeah,
games. And Miyazaki has come out and said, "Oh yeah, we're still focused on single player games." And it's just kind of like, well,
but
what
are
does
you?
that mean if your next single player game is in, and it's from Soft. I'm sure they'll have one in
Yeah, yeah,
2027. They have a pretty good cadence,
yeah.
but two in a row kind of leaves me not as confident as I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for Night Rain, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm confident that we will be getting more single player experiences from them for two reasons. One, those still sell really well, and I think the amount of players who love those games and want more of that is, I think they know that they need to do that. And two, like the good thing about Miyazaki is like he loves his craft. Like you can tell that his whole creation of this subgenre of games, I think, is a testament to the passion he has for certain types of things within gaming. And I think we are going to see more from them. But my concern starts to become if either of these multiplayer things start to become successful enough, like you start to hit like a Fortnite stride, does the money at some point overtake those other things? And I don't think we're there by any
Well, it
means
would,
now.
but I do you even see that as a possibility? I don't. I just
I don't.
don't. I don't think it's the
Which is
right
why
game
my
for it.
I don't think it is either. Which is why my faith is not totally shaken, because I think what's going to happen is they will. I think they're probably working on at least one single player next thing that, like you said, will come out in 2027 or something like that. And so I think it'll be okay. I will say though, like, so I'm not, my faith isn't shaken like at large for the studio, although there's a little concern there. But in the near term, I am disappointed because Duskbloods looked cool. Like everything they showed, I'm like, it looks like it looked like a Bloodborne successor to some extent. I can see the Castlevania comparisons from what I haven't played Castlevania either, but from what I've seen, it's like I could see a little bit of that. But it looks like a Bloodborne vibe with some more modern gameplay, from soft gameplay. And it's something where if that was a single player experience, that would be the most exciting game that the Switch has coming for me, probably. And now
Yeah.
that knowing it's a PvPvE, I'm not a big like competitive, like I'm not a competitive gamer. I'm not huge on even like, PvE is generally not what I'm playing. Like I mostly
Yeah.
prefer single, and I get that, there are people who will be excited and that's great. It's just kind of a bummer because it's like I want to play this game, but if that is the gameplay loop, it might just not be a game for me.
Yeah,
And
I
that
might
makes me
not even
disappointed.
try it. I went from like, this is amazing, to like, why is it on the Switch? Okay, I'm still excited, to I might not play this game.
Yeah, I'll keep it.
And
I
that
mean,
was just a very disappointing sequence of events to go through
totally. Yeah, my
for an
ultimate feeling,
announcement.
I landed on disappointment. And, we'll keep an eye on it and maybe it will turn
Maybe
out
it
to be
will.
fun, but I don't think it's
I
going to be
mean,
my thing. And
what does that even mean? Like, what is that? An extraction, not shooter, an extraction from soft game?
an
Like, what is
extraction souls
PvPvE?
like,
Like, you're
yeah,
going into this world to fight enemies and then gain resources, but then you can kill other players or get killed. Like, I just don't understand.
I don't know
And we'll
exactly.
find out more. We'll find out
Yeah,
more, and I'm sure it'll have some measure of quality. We're about ready to find out what Night Rain is all about next month. So
yeah. I'm sure,
that was a
like, yeah,
shocker. So
I'm sure it will, but yeah, I wish it was a single player, and I eagerly await their next single player. But
yeah,
hey, maybe this is a preview. Like maybe they're gonna do a single player game in this universe. Like that is feasible.
maybe a Duskblood single player game. It's just weird to lead off with a. You would lead off with a single player game then it has IP loyalty
Would
to do
you?
a multiplayer game with, right?
Would
It's just
you?
backwards. I
Why do
don't
you
know.
think the
Well, I don't
Fortnite
know
single
anything.
player game was so successful?
Great point. All right, so we got other stuff though. Lo and behold, Mario Kart World is the official title, and it is in fact, all signs were pointing to it being the release title. Um, it didn't seem to make sense to me or to you. We kind of thought surely it's going to be Metroid and Mario Kart's going to follow a month or two later. Um, but no, still no date for Metroid,
Yeah,
which at this point is concerning. I would say
a
I feel
little.
concerned by it a little bit. Mario Kart World is in fact a release day game, and it is really actually changing up the formula more than I expected. I
Hmm.
think more than a lot of people expected. Going, I guess you would call it open world, kind of Forza esque. So, and then we also got. I'll just throw three out there, and we can kind of pick through these. Donkey Kong Bonanza was kind of one of the big surprises from this direct.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone expecting a new um, Odyssey, a new Mario Odyssey, and no mention of Mario, but we did get a brand new 3D Donkey Kong game for the first time in at least 2 decades longer. So, um, all of those are exciting in their own way.
Yeah.
Not having a date for Metroid, but what are your thoughts on kind of? I would say those are the three big ones.
Those are the three big ones, and then
Let me
there's
look
like
through
one
what
or two
else.
other little things we can touch on after that. But starting, I kind of want to save Metro or Mario Kart because there's a price element that I'm sure we're going to
Yeah,
get to.
we'll talk pricing
We'll
after
we'll
games.
save
Yeah,
Mario Kart for last. Um, so Donkey Kong Bonanza was a huge surprise and a very welcome one overall for me. I really enjoyed DK64 back in the day, and I've always been hoping for the next 3D Donkey Kong to someday come out. And DK64 was 99, 98, something like that, 97. It's been a long time. Um, but I will say, like you said, we were all expecting the next 3D Mario. Like the last 3D Mario came out in 2017. So we're closing in on 8 full years, which is pretty long. And that felt like a good flagship title. And so I think my thinking was, okay, they're going to launch with Metroid, to help like boost Metroid sales by bundling it with the Switch. Then they're going to follow up with Mario Kart a few months later. That'll be a big summer thing, and that'll be exciting. That'll probably drive some more sales. And
yeah.
then the holiday uh,
Holiday season, we get Mario.
flagship game is going to be Mario. And the fact that they started the trailer and there's like a star that appears like in the video game world. I forget how exactly. And I was like, "Oh yeah, this is Mario." But then as it keeps going, I'm like, "This doesn't quite seem like Mario. What is this?" And then you slowly realize, "Oh, this is DK." That was both exciting, but I was like, "Oh, I don't think we're getting a
There was
3D
a star
Mario."
in his trailer. Are you sure you're not thinking of Kirby? Air Riders.
Maybe I was thinking of Kirby Air
Yeah,
Riders.
Kirby Air Riders is the star one, and then Kirby's riding the star,
Maybe
and
that's
then
what it was. I was like, oh, here it is, and then it wasn't that, and then we got Bonanza. Um,
yeah, and
Either way,
DK Bonanza was the banana, and you're like, oh, this is Mario, and then it
I was
kept
like,
going,
this
and
is
you're
the
like,
classic Mario banana,
classic
and
Mario banana.
they faked me out. Okay, there are banana peels in Mario Kart. Well, how was I supposed to know?
That's fair.
Um, yeah, so
Same
I was
universe,
excited
obviously.
as soon as they showed Bonanza. I was like, I think this is in place of Mario. I don't think they're going to show both. That turned out to be true, and it left me kind of in a weird place where I am very excited for Bonanza, both because it's a 3D Donkey Kong, also because it looks like they're doing some very unique, interesting things with it. Like it's a
It
there are
looks
a lot.
innovative. It looks.
It looks innovative. Yeah, it's because
Wow.
your DK, you can break like and smash anything, and you can like smash and kind of dig your way into the ground. And it seems like they've given you a pretty wide,
Yeah.
a pretty loose.
Basically, terrain destruction. The game.
Yeah,
Like you're just tunneling and breaking everything, and
terrain
that's the point of the game.
destruction collectathon maybe,
Yeah.
which sounds awesome. I'm super excited for that. But I am a little worried now because it's like, oh, if Mario's not coming out, I'm sure they'll have that lined up for the next year or two. So we'll get it. Mario's is
Unless
gonna.
this is the team behind Mario Odyssey, which we don't know because Nintendo
Okay, yeah,
refuses to tell us.
that was the thing I'm worried about because some elements of this game felt
It
kind of
looks
like
very Odyssey esque.
it does look Odyssey esque, which it leads us to wonder if this is the Odyssey team and they're gonna make the next Mario. Does that mean we're 7-8 years away from the next Mario? And that
Yeah,
just feels.
that
I
seems
I feel like
impossible.
Nintendo would know that can't be the
I,
case.
I feel like there's no way Nintendo would put Nintendo. I don't know. They do whatever they want, so I can't even say that. I feel like there's no way a reasonable human or company would put the Odyssey team on a Donkey Kong game because as much as they want to revitalize Donkey Kong, he's not Mario currently, and the sales are going to
And
reflect
never will
that.
be. Yeah,
And so, why would you take the team that made Odyssey, many argue the best Mario ever made, and immediately be like, all right, you're done with Mario for now. Why don't you spend the next 8 years working on Donkey Kong? Like, I just don't, that doesn't make sense.
yeah,
But it does look like the team, but maybe they shared, it's all in house and they shared tips and assets and I don't know, whatever.
yeah.
No idea.
Um, it's hard to say, and that's not something we can confirm. So it left me excited for DK, a little bummed because 3D Mario is one of my
Yeah.
most anticipated games from in general, but also especially from Nintendo.
And one
Now we
last
don't know
little
what that's
bit
going to
there.
be.
Yeah, one last little bit there is that Bonanza comes out in July. It's not a holiday
Yeah,
game. So
yeah.
it comes out like immediately after the Switch a month later. So it still leaves the holiday open, which leaves me wondering, are we going to get a surprise Mario announcement? But why wouldn't you include that in the Switch 2 Direct? So many
I've
questions
been
still.
thinking about that. Like it could make sense that. Well, first of all, there's Metroid. We don't have a date for Metroid, so it's like, well,
But
does
is Metroid
Metroid?
enough to be do you want that as a, I don't think Nintendo trusts that as a holiday like mover.
I wouldn't think they would. And even if it sells pretty well, I think that like limits a big part of their audience. Like there's a lot of littler kids who love Nintendo who aren't going to be interested in a shooter game, or maybe their parents don't want them, whatever. Um, it feels like they need one of their more mainline franchises to be the holiday release, the
Yeah, you
year that
want a Zelda or a
when
Mario
you
for
think
your.
about 2017 when
Although
the
Zelda
first.
has always come out in March or the spring, so I don't know.
True, but I mean, if you think about the first Switch, it came out in April, I think, of 2017, and it came out with Breath of the Wild, and
And then
then
Mario in the holiday.
Mario Odyssey came out in around the holidays, like November,
Yeah,
December. So two big titles. So it's still possible. Like I don't think. I mean,
it
we have
totally is. I just think it's
It's
odd they wouldn't have
it's
announced it if
odd.
it was the plan.
It's odd because they're kind of treating Mario Kart as the big title, and Bonanza is sort of like and we'll talk about price too, but the pricing also reflects that they're kind of emphasizing Mario Kart. Bonanza, the price is
Yeah.
lower than Mario Kart, which we'll get to, and so that kind of makes me wonder like how big of an experience is Bonanza, um, and then what's happening later in the year. I kind of feel like Metroid might be something that comes out September, October, which still does leave that holiday time period. And maybe we will. I mean, we saw Kirby Air Riders. Did that have a date? I mean, that could maybe be their
I
holiday
don't
release
remember,
as
but
well.
I think it was just later this year.
So I feel like you know that could maybe be their holiday release. I'm
Let me see if
hoping
this
we get
post says that.
a 3D Mario secret secret drop at the end of the year, but that is not clear yet.
Just said later 2025.
Yeah. So
So
maybe it's,
who
you
knows?
know, I think based on
We'll
what
have to
we've
get another
seen,
direct. Maybe they're saving some stuff. Maybe they're actually going to be at like Summer Games Fest or things like that. I don't know.
true.
Um,
Yeah, that's a great point. We'll wait for Summer Games
Nintendo's
Fest.
usually not. They usually do their own thing though. So,
I don't know.
some
They
other things
usually
from
don't get
this.
FromSoft
Yeah, that's
exclusives.
true. That's true.
So
Bowser's in control. Anything could happen.
yeah,
Some other things from the direct that we got, concrete information on. We got new hardware. Um, new pro controller that actually has back paddles, which is our first like baseline controller model that has back paddles. Love to see that become standard. um and then their gimmick, everyone wondered, what is the C button, what is this magical C button on the controller? um it's gonna be wild and crazy, and it turns out it's the chat button,
it's
because
bad Discord.
Nintendo have invented Discord in 2025, and they would like you to pay them for it. um, a little bit of, not to
It's
get,
included. It's
we're gonna slide into transitioning talking about
yeah,
pricing, but one funny thing to come out after this direct is that in fact, if you do not pay for online Nintendo's online thing, this button does nothing. This is a physical button on the controller, like a piece of hardware that you cannot remove, that will do nothing unless you pay Nintendo a subscription fee.
we don't know that for sure. It might be a thing where you press it and it brings up a payment menu.
It will do that. It
Yeah,
will exactly do
that's
that,
something.
but it won't
So
do a feature. Yeah, there you go.
let's be.
Which is funny
It's
because like
functional. Yeah,
it's so Nintendo, and it's so stupid
I
because
know.
you
You
could have
shouldn't
just
have.
had, a home button, and then at the bottom, virtually you have different icons that go to your chat or whatever, like literally anyone else does. And
Yeah.
instead they created a physical dedicated button to
You
this
also
thing that,
you also could have included like a baseline chat for free, and then maybe you have like a
right.
higher call quality, higher video quality
I mean,
chat that you
honestly,
can
it
be
to
part of your
be quite
subscription.
honest, it in line with a lot that we're going to talk about, it feels very predatory because
Yeah.
you have made sure there is a physical button people can accidentally hit that will pull up basically a shop saying, "Hey, subscribe to Nintendo Online." Like, it is, to me, that's just scummy. It's predatory, anyways. So that's what the C button turned out to be. It was not clicker mode or people, or cursor mode. People were thinking because of the mouse thing. We did get confirmation
And that's
the
the other
Joy
gimmick
Cons
is
will
they'll
function as a
yeah,
mouse, and from what I've heard from a lot of the reporting, it functions very well, and it
yeah,
seamlessly transitions from mouse mode to controller mode if you pick it up
which is
back and
nice. Yeah.
forth. Pretty cool. I'm very curious to test that out.
Yeah, we'll have to
As we
see
mentioned,
how frequent of a feature that is that we actually use, but
yeah, it won't be
at least it
used
works.
beyond. You know what
Games
it'll
that
be
make
used
use of
mostly
them.
for? If the Switch 2 becomes a contemporary system, it will be a godsend for third party
Apple.
titles that are PC games.
Yeah.
Because they always have such a nightmare of trying to make go from keyboard and mouse to a controller
Right.
sometimes,
How do you
and here you
compete? Yeah.
don't have to do that. And to be honest, this is, personally, the more I thought about this Switch 2 Joy-Con technology is exciting to me because I love control. I prefer to play games on controller. I think it's
Same.
the more relaxing. I feel like I'm working if I'm using a keyboard and a mouse, and I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm playing a game. I've played games back in the day like WoW with keyboard and mouse, and there's exceptions, but like, to me, the dream is, we're really close to the dream with these Joy Cons, because the dream is to
You
have
kind of can do
a
both.
controller in your left
Yeah.
hand and a mouse in your right,
Yeah.
and then you can aim with the mouse, you can move the camera with the mouse, you do everything else. You run around and you do action buttons with the controller, and then games can more easily convert their UI and stuff like that, or you can have things where you can click and drag and drop. Like, that would be amazing if we could get to a point. We never will, because Sony's not, this is just a Nintendo thing, but
Yeah.
that is truly one of my like never going to happen dreams, is like controller in this hand, mouse in this hand, basically functionality,
Yeah.
to be able to play games. So
Yeah. And Nintendo is the type of company that will try weird things
I
like
mean,
that,
here we are. They
and it
kind of
seems like
did
it's
it.
going to
So
work. So that's cool. Other hardware stuff, we got kind of the confirmation of it's going to up 120 hertz screen in
Yeah.
mobile mode, which is amazing and
The
crazy.
screen is 120 hertz, which I don't think anyone saw coming. I didn't know. I
No,
don't think we knew
I didn't.
Nintendo knew numbers went that high for
Yeah, I
physical
didn't think
specs.
they. I well, no, based on how much they want to charge people for stuff, I knew they could
Oh,
count
that's
that
a good
high,
point.
but
They know the
yeah,
number.
no, it's more interesting that they even thought about hertz in the first place.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's pretty
but
wild. 120
that's good.
hertz.
Yeah,
No OLED as we expected.
I've heard it's a pretty high quality
I've heard it's
LCD
good, but
screen, but
I'm still
it's
really
still a step and
nervous.
it's still a needless step back from
It
its
should never
consumer.
be never have to worry about a downgrade from a
Yeah,
console launch.
and there
So
might be, it's the charitable thing is, it might be a little more expensive with OLED and they're trying to rein in the price, but it's hard to make that argument with the pricing stuff we'll talk about.
yeah, right.
But the more probable answer is that they want to release an
They
OLED
want to
version
sell it.
in
Yeah.
2 to 3 years. And is that going to work on me as a paragon of resisting corporate?
Morals.
Yeah, it is I'm going to buy one is what I'm saying. I'm going to
Yeah,
buy
and
one.
honestly, I had the thought of like, do I wait for the OLED
Yeah.
version that will inevitably happen? And
If you do, I'll be very impressed.
the answer was, unfortunately, they're gonna wait just long enough
Yeah.
that it's too long to wait, and
I
so
think
it
it'll be
just
three
sucks.
years. I think it'll be three
I think it'll
years.
be two minimum,
Two
and
minimum.
I'm not gonna wait 2 years. If it were 1 year, I legitimately would have probably waited.
Well, the
Um,
the OLED from Switch One was 4 years. I think it'll be faster this time because they've done it, but
yeah,
I think it'll be three because even 2 years, I think there'll be a lot of people where they're like, I can hang on for two.
yeah, but
Three,
no
it's
one
like
knows it's coming. I don't know, whatever.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be.
Um,
I think it's gonna be 3 years.
So, anyways, some specs are pretty impressive. They're throwing out numbers like the dock has a fan and some. I think it's just a fan. I don't know if it's doing anything else, but it allegedly can assist in cooling to the point where they're throwing 4K 60 out there, which
Yeah,
sounds great. But you know what? My PS5 doesn't do 4K 60.
I
No
think
one
it's one
can
of
do
those things where
4K
it's like
60.
it's
So
technically capable, but are
yeah,
developers going to be optimizing many of their games to take advantage of it,
the only
whatever
thing
way it
is
needs to
though,
be.
third party certainly will not. But Nintendo's
Right.
games tend to be more
That's
simple.
true.
So maybe we really are running Breath of the Wild 4K 60. Even then, I doubt it. But like Metroid,
I know.
I've heard that 4K 60 running on the screen is great. 120, it's running 120 locked.
Yeah.
It's cool
It's
that
cool. It is cool.
this is potentially this could be reality. We'll see what happens.
It's kind of like the
We did get
speedometer on my 1994 Toyota Camry going to
goes
120.
go
It's
to
like, can
120.
it technically go
You're like,
120
has it
miles per
ever?
hour for 10 minutes until it falls
Yeah.
apart? Probably isn't going to be
Um,
doing that.
I think our last little bit here that's really worth talking. We did get a new Hyrule Warriors, which is set in the past with Zelda from Tears of the Kingdom. That trailer got me. At first, I was like, "This is a Hyrule Warriors game," and then I was like, "Wait, maybe it's not. This
Maybe
looks
it's
amazing.
not.
I'm so excited!" And then it was Hyrule Warriors, and I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
had the
"Dang it,"
same
because that's
journey.
just
Like I
not
was
my
like, oh, maybe, nah. But
dude. I was so
there,
hyped for like 30 seconds there, and then it was Hyrule Warriors, and I was like, "Oh
my
shoot."
daughter is a huge Zelda fan now. She loves Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but she also enjoys the Hyrule Warriors game. So at the very least, I think there will be a lot of people who have some
Yeah.
fun with it. It's not for me. I don't care about it, but my daughter
I mean, if
will
you're
at
gonna
least like
jump
it.
in, it's probably the right way to get people is with Tears of the Kingdom and all
Yeah,
those characters that were really cool in Tears of the Kingdom.
totally.
That past storyline. So we also got a bunch of DLC. We got Kirby and the Forgotten Land DLC coming, Jamboree DLC, which incorporates the camera, which we didn't mention that Nintendo's selling and their whole chat functionality. Um, we got DLC for, if you can call it that, we got DLC for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which we'll talk about. And then let's see. Oh, last thing we didn't touch on is the Welcome Tour, the surely free Welcome Tour game that looks like infinitely more boring than Astrobot.
Now
That
this is going to dethrone Astrobot.
oh my
Just
goodness,
you wait.
and that trailer said paid game Welcome Tour. So
The
um,
full,
it,
the full, the like full chested confidence of Nintendo being like paid welcome tour. You would think they would have the shame to just not say anything, and
to
then when
not
you
say it,
see it, be like, there, you'll see that it's $10 and be
they
disappointed.
had to say paid because they knew people would assume it was free,
Yeah, I know.
which is telling in itself. So, anyways, this Welcome Tour thing
And
is literally a smaller, well, not smaller. It's a blown up, essentially, version of the Switch 2 digitally that you get to walk around as a little tiny person in a museum, and you get to walk up to the triggers and the sticks, and it tells you, this is how we designed the Switch 2 and blah, blah, blah. And you get to pay, it came out
ten
$10
dollars.
is what
It's
the
like if Honey I Shrunk
cost
the
of this.
Kids was just in a boring museum
Yeah. And it
where they're
does
just
have,
reading.
I've heard it has some interesting mini games that kind of show off the different.
Sure.
One that
Yeah.
cracks me up that I've always seen is them explaining 4K in like a in the original Mario, like just stretching until it's 4K pixels, and it's just like it's Nintendo cracks me up the way that they catch up to like what the industry's been doing for a decade, and
By
then
charging you.
act and then like plant their flag like they just discovered
Invented it.
this new
Yeah.
land.
Yeah. It's a little like Apple,
They're
you
the
know, like
Lewis
we've
and Clark
invented
of
this.
tech.
Totally. It's like Apple when they're like, we invented this new feature that, you know, other things have had forever.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, the welcome tour one, I wasn't like, even if it was free, I was like, I might like briefly open it out of just because it's free. But I was like, I can tell that's not something I'm going to be really playing. And then they said it was paid, and I was like, all right, on
Yeah.
principle, I'm certainly not going to be paying
That's what I
$10
said to
for.
you. I'm like,
Uh,
there was outrage over this, everyone was like, "You've got to be kidding me!
rightly,
This is the
rightly so,
most
because that's
just
not going to make them much money, and they have to know
egregiously
it. Like
like, yeah, just
they have to
I don't know.
think for a second how many people are really going to buy this. Like I feel like the amount of goodwill that costs for the amount of people that will pay for it
Surely it's
cannot be
more than
worth it.
yeah.
Um,
So, and that's what I was saying. I'm like, even if we win this battle and they say, "All right, welcome tours free,"
all
I
right, we've dropped it
honestly
down to
don't.
$8.
No, if they said it's free, if they said I'll give you $3 if you play it, I don't care. I don't want this game. Like it just is an annoying principle thing for me. Like I do
Totally.
not care to play this game ever. So
Yeah.
if you can call it a game. So that was mostly the direct. That was kind of the big thing coming out of the direct. A lot of people were kind of like, "Oh, this is really good," but that paid welcome tour was just had everyone going like,
Right.
"This feels really, really greedy and odd. Like just a really bad choice." And then, lo and behold,
But at
after that, it
least
comes
that
out.
was the only
Yeah, the
egregious
only bad
pricing
thing.
decision.
So, no pricing was mentioned in the direct, and right afterwards, as is the case in this digital age, all of the information started spilling out over the various, you know, forums and Twitter and whatever. And it comes out that I think the first thing that came out, anyways, the console price is $450. That's what they came out with,
Yeah.
$50 more than everyone thought. I think we all kind of went, "Ah, oh, that sucks. I really thought it was going to be $400, but $450.
I
All
kind of
right,
thought it might. 450
fine."
was probably my guess.
Nintendo's just always kind of tried to really
They
they
have,
want
but
3 of these in every house. So
I
they've
agree.
always
It's
really
just the
tried to hit that low price, and 400 felt right. Once you hit the 50 mark, 50
it
is
gets
always a
weird.
weird price.
It gets weird. Yeah, because then
So anyways,
you can't say 399. You know,
yeah, you
four
can't say
forty
you
nine
can't
doesn't
have the
have that
3. It
ring.
changes
Yeah.
to a 4.
Yeah.
So, and I thought that was a big deal. So I think we were all kind of like, "Oh, that's 50 more than we thought." But you know what? All right, fine. The
With all of the
real
hardware specs, it was like, okay, I can kind of see it.
sure.
Like it's $50
Yeah.
more than I want, but it didn't feel it didn't feel crazy either. It's like whatever. But
Yeah. The real chaos has been the software. So it comes out that Mario Kart World is going to be $80 digitally. And I still don't have confirmation on this. I don't know. Did we ever get actual confirmation the physical edition is more? I've heard that
you know,
it is
I
in different locations.
that might be
Maybe
something
not in the
specific
US.
to
I don't.
specific like regulations by certain location for like taxes or something, because I have not been able to confirm that myself. The prices I've
So
looked at haven't included
I
that.
won't even
So
speak to that.
that doesn't
It's $80.
I don't that's not quite substantiated yet.
Sure. So
But still.
Nintendo has now officially blown past the $70 benchmark that was set in what the last year, maybe 2. Video games were $60 forever.
I want to
Then
say
all of a sudden
2,
they're
but yeah,
70 and Nintendo says, "Nay, Mario Kart World sold 60 million copies. We're going to price this at $80 because screw you, consumer," is pretty
yeah.
much what it comes out as. And they came out and said, "No, hold on. Corporate speak. This, we're having a direct and you're going to see why this is $80. Just wait. Like we have a lot of surprises in store."
Yeah.
Well, we're from the future. We've seen the direct. And it was pretty much everything we'd already seen about Mario Kart World. They mentioned they showed off the in between race elements, which essentially amount to there are coins that you can find in the world, and there are these P switches which essentially amount to little challenges you can do. You hit a P switch and then you have to get from point A to point B really quick or whatever.
Yeah.
But oh, and there's a drive-through where you can get lots of different customizable suits for the characters in Mario Kart World. Pretty sure that's it. And my biggest thing going into this, I kind of went into the direct saying, all right, I am a lapsed Mario Kart player. I don't like the price. I want to get in on a new Mario Kart though, because I pretty much skipped out entirely on 8. I didn't love the like gliding mechanic, and I just didn't. I never bought the game. I never got into it. And I'm like, you know what?
Same, actually. Yeah.
Switch 2. It's time. Let's get back into Mario Kart. And I wanted them to show me why open world besides for open world's sake. Like, is there cool stuff? Can I get lost in this open world? Are there nooks and crannies and things to find and things that make this really feel worthwhile and not just like I'm now, instead of having to load a new race, I have to drive to a new race? And I left the direct and I do not feel like they answered that at all. It feels very much like they did open world because they found out that open worlds are cool 12 years ago and they finally
Yeah.
caught up or something. I
And
don't.
it sounds impressive. And like, I certainly understand why coming out with a new console saying we have Mario Kart World with an open world connecting everything,
Yeah,
like on paper, that is a pretty strong selling point, I think. And it still looks fun. Like, I think that looks
it looks cool.
interesting
Like when you
enough.
look at the
I want to
biomes
try it.
connecting and like
Yeah, I
if
think
you're
that's
doing
neat.
a Grand Prix and you do a race and then it connects to another race,
I think that's all pretty
cool. But they've
cool.
also mentioned like literally you finish a race and then you just have to drive to the next course. And to me, I'm like,
I'm hoping they have some shortcuts because you might be in
that
a mode where
sounds
you like
boring.
I want an exploration mode where I can do that, but then I want the option to like they've got to have like
Not
some kind of fast travel essentially, right? Like just take me to the race if I
like
don't feel like
classic
exploring.
mode where you can just pick tracks.
Or you just open the
I don't
map and
know.
just like you're fast traveling, you just open the map and go to the, just click the next thing
Yeah.
you want to go to. I hope they have something like that for quality of life. I'm really hoping they have some interesting things, like you said, that make the world feel dynamic and that are actual diversions from the core racing experience that are still fun.
So
And
when you're saying that, are you hoping that there's more than what they showed? Because to me, I just don't see there being more than what they showed.
I'm saying I want there to be more than what they've showed. I'm not necessarily thinking that there will be.
Okay. All
Um,
right.
and that's kind of my point is when we first saw the reveal on April 2nd, I was like, this might be really cool. And they showed just enough to kind of like whet our appetites. Um,
Yeah.
and then, fast forward a week or two to the direct where they actually went through some gameplay. We mostly saw what we had seen before with a few little additions. Like we saw you can go through the drive through and like get a meal and it gives you a special ability, and that's kind of fun, but it's like that's not real. That's more of a power up. That's not really an activity. It's like
I
it'll
know
take
it
you what
didn't even look
three
like a
seconds.
gameplay thing. It was like
It's
they
not.
didn't
You just drive.
explain it. Like, what do you have to do something before that, or do you just drive through the
I
drive-through like
think you
8
just
times
drive.
and get a bunch of like what?
I think you just
What is
drive through
it?
it. It's like how's that like that's kind of fun from like a flavor perspective. But if you think about it, that's the same mechanic of driving through a block and getting an ability. Like
Yeah.
you're driving into
That's like
something
an
and you get a
update for any
randomized.
game. Like, oh, we have an update for you guys. Now you can get these outfits at the drive-through. Not like a here's one of
Yeah,
our 3 core pillar
and it
open
like
world features.
again from a gameplay loop
So,
perspective, it's the same. It's just getting a power up. Like it takes you
yeah.
2 seconds. That's not going to keep me busy. Like a race takes time. That's a thing I'm doing. Getting a power up is like assists that, but it's not the loop itself. What I was hoping for was like maybe you can get a quest, and maybe the quest is, hey, you have to go run over a bunch of Goombas out in the desert because there's a swarm of them. And if you can run over 100 Goombas
Yeah.
in a certain time period, like you're gonna cull the
Something
herd that's
quirky.
gonna,
I was
yeah,
totally
something like that.
that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I want this to be like Tony Hawk 4.
Yeah,
Like, give
totally.
me weird characters in the middle of nowhere who are like, dude, you got to help me out with this thing. And like,
Or like someone got
then
lost in the
okay.
pipes. You got to drive through the pipe
Yeah.
levels underneath and go save the little
Or a
toad that got
campaign. A lot of
lost.
people were hoping for a campaign. No mention
Campaign.
of a campaign. So at the end of
Yeah.
it all, to me, I just look at this and I go, we haven't had a new Mario Kart in a decade. Everything that's here is cool, but it's kind of just what you would expect from a new Mario Kart after 10 years. It's not like we have to really go out of our way to price this higher because we went above and beyond. It just to me it looks like the next like you innovated. Good job. You should
You
after a
innovated as you
decade.
need to with a new title
Like
anyway. That's what's so frustrating is it's like if they had just priced this at $60, I think we would all be over the moon with
To be
everything coming
honest, if
out.
they'd have priced this at 70, they would have avoided so much
If that's
discourse.
what I'm saying. If they priced it at 60, we would have been over the moon. If they priced it
Yeah,
at 70, because what I did expect them to be like, hey, new console, new
we're
specs,
coming up
we're
to
big
70
boys
with
now. We're
everybody.
at $70 for everyone else. I expected that. I don't love it, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
Whatever. If they had come out at 70, I'd been like, okay, cool. It's the next Mario Kart, $70. This does look like an evolution. I'm excited. $80, they're now telling us this is worth more than any baseline video game, not just that we make, that anyone makes. And
right.
we expect you to know that, and we're going to make you pay for it. And then they don't really give anything that
Really
goes
back it
enough
up.
above and
They don't
beyond.
back it up because their backup is we've sold 60 million copies of this game.
Yeah,
So
and I
you're
that's
going
going
to
to be
buy it.
enough. It
Like
is
that's
going to
their
be enough.
backup. So my question, I guess my question to you, will this sell will this sell enough for them at $80? Nintendo doesn't really change their prices. Are they going to notice this being a bad decision, or is it just not going to matter?
That's a really hard question to answer for a few reasons. I mean, one, it's never enough for these companies. So in some ways, no,
Right, but I
it will never
mean
be enough.
enough
But
for them to
will
look
this
at it and go, "Oh,
will this be a
we
bad
priced that too high."
decision? Did we price this too high
Sony
to the
looks at the
point where it's
PS3 and
hurting
goes,
us?
"Oh, we shouldn't have priced it there." You know,
Hmm. I don't know. I think the state of like the macro economy with uh price issues and tariffs hitting certain countries and like uncertainty, a lot of economic uncertainty and instability. I think we're entering a point where that could hurt them. Um,
I feel like it's got to, right? Like
I
we're at
think
a.
it's got to a little bit, but
I
on the
know
other
that.
hand,
Go ahead. I'll let you continue. Yeah.
it's Mario Kart. I think everyone. I don't necessarily think this game is going to hurt them. I think this
But
will. I think this
could that
will.
also backfire? Could it also backfire where people are like, "I have Mario. I have an excellent definitive edition of Mario Kart that I can still play. Maybe I'll just stick with that."
I don't quite think that will happen. I think there will be some for sure, but I think enough people will
Because they
buy it.
need everybody. Everybody buys Mario Kart.
I think they will
And if a
because
third
one.
of them don't, that's a huge. My concern
I mean, how many
is that
people
at
didn't
80,
buy the last Mario Kart? I think a lot of people will. I think they will sell enough.
yeah,
What I think might happen though is I think what could backfire is when they go to price whatever their next $80 game is, they've spent that goodwill, and then people are kind of pissed off.
if
And
there's any left right now already, I feel like. I mean, the
that's
general
what I mean. I'm
consumer,
saying this. I think this could hurt them, but I don't know if it's
yeah,
going to hurt them
if it'll
with
help
Mario
hurt them
Kart
this time.
sales. Yeah.
My big annoyance with all of this pricing, and we'll touch a little bit more on some of these other ones, but is that to me, I don't see them making more money from World by pricing it at 80. I view it almost more, and this is total guess. I have no idea. Maybe they make way more money, but like if X amount of people don't buy it because it's $80 and X amount do, it comes out in the wash. And you're like,
Right.
oh,
Is it a
we made the
wash?
same amount of money. And it's like, okay, then price it lower so that more people get Mario Kart and you still make the same money.
I think
Like
they
that's
are banking
basic
on.
economics.
I think they're banking on everyone will buy it.
They're banking on everyone's going to
They're
buy it,
banking on everyone's
and
going
I
to buy it.
kind of wish, I really wish that this bundle didn't exist because I want to
Yeah.
know the answer. We're
Yeah.
not going to know
Bundles.
the answer for a little while
That's
because
the other. Yeah.
everyone's going to get this bundle because oh, Mario Kart's $50. Cool. I'll pay $50 for Mario Kart World. Even I feel that way. Sure.
Yeah. That's a
But
great price for
once
a
the
Mario
bundle's
Kart. That's a
gone,
great price. Yeah.
then and you walk into a store and it's $80 to buy Mario Kart World and it's not brand new. I don't see everyone
That
doing that.
but it's like, will have everyone bought it by then? I don't know. So maybe you're right. Like I honestly have no idea. I don't have a ton of faith anymore that people won't pay more than they should,
I know.
myself
Yeah,
included. But
that's for sure.
especially to some like part of the reason I wanted the bundle so bad is because I'd like to play Mario Kart. I do not want to pay $80 for it, and it's like I don't want to have to wait.
Would you have purchased it at $80? Could you not have gotten a bundle?
I wasn't planning to. I
Because
don't know.
I wouldn't have. I would
I don't
not
think
have
I would have
purchased
either
it.
because I wasn't planning to. I was like, I'll get because I was thinking if I can't get the bundle, I'll try and get the Switch too, and then I'll just wait for Donkey Kong because I'm excited for that. That's like a month or two later.
That's
Like
exactly what I thought.
that was
I
my
was like, I'll wait for Metroid or Donkey Kong if I can't get the bundle.
and I. The thing is, I'm trying to like because right now the answer is no. I was not going to do that. The hypothetical that
But
I'm
you
not
have
quite
kids
sure.
though, so
Yeah, they've never been huge on the cart games, so it's like,
Okay.
but people, that could be a thing for people with kids for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
The thing that gets me is, okay, let's say I get the Switch and I don't manage to get the bundle. A year goes by. All of my other friends got the bundle. They're all happily playing Mario Kart, and I really want to join them. Do I fold 6 months to 12 months from now and say, you know what,
And
screw
still
it?
get it for
All
80
my friends
bucks.
play this all the time. It looks really fun. I'm just going to buy this one game at $80. That might happen to me
Yeah.
and others. And that's where I'm like, I could see there's enough hype right now. A lot of people are going to get the bundle. I think there'll be a FOMO for people who didn't get the bundle who are like, okay, I'm just going to pay. It's an extra $10. They're caught up in the moment. They want to play with all their friends. I think a lot of that's going to happen. I think where that starts to bite them is a year or two from now. Once all of that's gone, and it's like, are people still going to pay $80 for Mario Kart 2 years from now?
Yeah.
And how are people going to feel? Because this won't be the only game. This is certainly not. Oh, this is a unique game.
I
Everything
mean, the
else will be
next Mario
70.
Odyssey is definitely going to be
The
$80.
next Mar,
Although,
the next
the
Zelda.
thing is, nothing sell. You know what? The only other game that's close, but nothing sells like Mario Kart. They really, this is their GTA, I think. And maybe
Yeah,
that's why they did it. Does a Mario Odyssey sell at 80? Does a Animal Crossing sell at 80 the way it should? Maybe.
they might.
I don't know.
I will say Animal Crossing has become so pervasive. My mother-in-law, who's in her mid 60s, bought a Switch and has sunk hundreds of hours into Animal Crossing and has said when like she doesn't care about the Switch 2 at all. Next Animal Crossing, she'll probably buy one day one.
Yeah.
I
Animal
think there
Crossing won the lottery when it came out during COVID.
it really
Like,
did.
legitimately.
And it got them into like a new segment of gamers that weren't interested in the other things. So I think
Not gamers at all. Yeah.
Animal Crossing, I think a mainline Mario has potential to be. I think they could charge. I'm not saying they should, but I think they could charge 80 for Odyssey 2 and
Yeah.
for Animal Crossing, the next Animal Crossing.
And the
And I
problem
think
with
people
all
would
of
pay.
this is that for me, my spending habits have changed in the last 2 years. When prices went to 70, um, and all of this, whether it's anecdotal or not, this all coincides with just the general crappiness of the economy. You know, these aren't the only things that prices are going up for, and wages aren't. And so I, I can't remember the last game I bought at 70. Is one of Sony's first party games, I'm sure. Might have been Ragnarok, was that 70?
I don't
I
remember if
really
Ragnarok was at
am
70.
not buying full price games anymore. I'm waiting for sales. I'll play a game 6 months later, a year later. Often it's the better game by that point. The problem is you can't fight that war with Nintendo because they don't discount their games. And so there's not even the like, oh, I hate that pricing, but I'll just play it in 6 months. You can't even really take that stance because in 6 months it'll be the exact same price. So these prices really matter because you may stand your ground and not purchase Mario Kart World at launch for $80, and like you said, a year later you want to get Mario Kart World and you hop onto the shop or you hop on to wherever Target. Guess what it's going to be? $80. Like,
Yeah, that's the problem
so,
with Nintendo is they don't really do sales. The other
and the only
ones,
way for that to change is if people look at that and go, "Oh, well, I guess I'm not getting it,"
I think
and
if they
then
want to,
they have to do sales. So
that's one thing I wonder is this might force their hand to do a little bit more on the sales front, which I guess would help alleviate it. But it just kind of sucks to be in this position where
yeah,
games are just that expensive. Because I will say, other Sony, these other developers do sales regularly, and they're at $70. So why is this worth 80? And I
yeah,
think tying into some of the industry conversations, obviously, I think it's clear how we feel about. I feel like 80 is too high, even for Mario Kart. Like it shouldn't be $80. Um, the thing I really worry about, and even if this is a one-off, I don't think it is. It would be. It's Nintendo, or corporation. Of course, it's not going to be a one-off. Even if this truly were a one-off, the other players are going to see this as a signal, and they're dealing. Corporations are also dealing with certain things being higher cost. They're going to use that to justify trying to continue having record profits by saying, "Oh, hey, we have
yeah.
to charge $80 now." In like, do we think Grand Theft Auto 6 is not looking at this and being like,
We all know that everyone knows Grand Theft Auto is going to be $80 minimum at this point. There have been
minimum
people who've been speculating GTA could be $100
100?
for a while now. I do just I guess at this point, rather than complain, I am genuinely a little bit interested to see how this all plays out, because
Me too.
I know my spending habits have changed. And I do think that right now, with the economics of the world and specifically the US right now,
Yeah.
um, this is such a bad time to push to 80. And if they can overcome it, it just leaves me further wondering, where is the breaking point? Because at some point people have to look at something and go, I want that, but I'm not going to get it, even though that's all we do in the US.
I think Nintendo
Um,
realized that to some extent because
will it happen?
the same day that they announced the pricing of the Switch on April 2nd was when the tariff rates at the time were revealed, in which those have
Right.
fluctuated wildly over the past month. But and so Nintendo was like, well, we got to figure this out. And now they've come back, and the pre-orders that we just went through was, okay, we're still only going to charge what we said for the
Yeah.
console, but we're going to increase the prices on peripherals, and the games will still be the same. But I think Nintendo is kind of seeing, okay,
Yeah.
we have to be very careful here because this could.
And
I
we
think
need
they
switches in
realized.
the
I
hands of
think they
people.
knew they were pushing it, and then the tariffs was something they didn't fully factor in, or they thought they could avoid by producing the
Avoid the
devices.
majority. Yeah.
Right, they're producing a lot of their devices in Vietnam to ship here, which would have circumvented China tariffs, but then tariffs hit Vietnam as well, and it's like, well, okay. So I think that is going to
So
be a
here's,
factor, and I think GTA and games like that are going to have to think about that.
yeah. Well, we just got, and I kind of want to circle this around. This won't maybe necessarily be part of this discussion, but we just got the date and reveal for Ghost of Yote, which is Sony's next big first party game, and
Yep.
it is $70. They didn't immediately pivot to 80, but
Yep.
I would not be surprised if, what would it be? The next
What's the next big
Naughty
Sony
Dog game,
game?
next God of War? We don't even know.
Heretic
That's the crazy
Prophet,
thing.
is that the next big
Heretic
one we know
Prophet. I
about?
don't know. So, anyways, the cherry on top of all of this, well, I guess not, but for me, what I find the most interesting is that it
The
comes out, the
poisonous
Breath of the
cherry.
Wild, the poisonous cherry, Breath of the Wild from 2017, the game we know and
Oh
love.
yeah.
So not only has its price not changed since 2017, it will be, actually it has changed because it
It's
came out at
not.
$60.
Breath of the Wild
It
came
is,
out at $60.
so to get the Switch 2 version of Breath of the Wild, you will have to pay $70. That is the new baseline price for a Switch 2 version, or what
Yeah.
do they call it? Edition. They're not calling it a complete edition for very important reasons, because unlike most games that have been out almost a decade, the DLC is not included in the Switch 2 edition of Breath of the Wild at $70, 10 higher than it originally launched.
Yeah.
You have to pay exactly the same as you paid. Well, when did the DLC come out? 5, 6, 7, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
It is not long after the game. $20 for the DLC. So if you want to play in its entirety on the Switch 2 in 2025, Breath of the Wild, you must pay $90 MSRP.
$90.
That is wild to me. That is, to me, that is like,
It's
I think it's
an
that,
8-year-old game.
Welcome Tour, and then Mario Kart World. Like,
Actually, yeah, I actually agree.
it
I
is
agree with that ranking.
astonishing to me that, like, if you do the math, someone who walks in and hasn't played Breath of the Wild will pay $90 to play that entire game. That is,
Yeah.
I mean, with tax, you're walking out $100 to play 2017's Breath of the Wild with its DLC.
Yeah. And one of the best games ever made, in my opinion.
Wild.
But we should not be in a place where we're charging, like, that's an insane amount to charge. Like, it should be the complete edition, like
$70 includes everything.
$70 includes
Like,
everything, and it's
fine.
upscaled. That would be like, okay, I get it.
Even
Fine.
that is like,
Even
you're
that's
taking 10, you're taking $10 from me because you can, because it's a Switch 2 and not a PC.
right.
You
But I'd
know,
be like,
so
you could at least make the argument, oh, everything's coupled in and it's going to look better.
yeah,
Whatever, fine. I'll do 70. But the fact that it's 90 is really, the fact that they didn't just include that is crazy. I don't know if you want to touch on this now, but that kind of ties into some other industry norms with re-releasing an old game and what you do with the DLC. I'll just bring it up, but
yeah. What?
we had the Bethesda shadow drop of Oblivion, Elder
Yeah,
Scrolls 4 Oblivion. They called it a remaster, but it's in
it's a
between a
remake. Why
remaster.
did they
It's
do
more of
that?
I think they didn't want to set expectations weird. And there are some choices they've made that keep some of the jank from the original, which I actually like, because
Yeah,
they kept a lot of the weird
I guess
personality
it's
of that
better to
game.
call it a remaster, and then everyone goes, "This is more like
It's
a
great.
remake,"
Yeah.
than to call it
I
a
think
remake, and everyone goes, "Oh, this is more of a
that
remaster."
plus the
So
shadow drop
sure.
showed that Bethesda was realizing they didn't want to disappoint people. They under promised and over delivered. Whereas Nintendo kind of did the opposite this time. Nintendo will deliver a good product, but they're asking too much. Whereas
Yeah.
Bethesda was like, we remade Oblivion. We're gonna call it a remaster, but this is functionally a remake of a
So
beloved 2006 game. But here's my point: they
you
included
read my mind,
the
honestly. Yeah.
DLC. They included the DLC, and so the full game remade with all the DLC, $70, the baseline standard. No, they did it for
80. It's 2025.
80. It's 2025, right? Like this is after the announcement of Nintendo. No, the price
16
was
times the detail.
the price was $50
Yeah.
for the full. Oblivion's a big game, full game, all of the DLC. It looks amazing.
Enhanced.
Enhanced, it looks really good. It's not perfect, but it looks great. It looks modern. It feels like
It's
a
been
modern game.
improved from the original version, like
Greatly
Breath of the
improved.
Wild.
It's been, I think,
More
more of
than
an
that.
improvement,
Oh,
much
yeah.
more of an
That's just a
improvement than
frame
Breath
rate
of the
bump.
Wild got. Like these rebuilt a lot of in-world stuff, and $50, $20 cheaper than like the standard Bethesda new game price point.
Yeah.
That's what they should have come out and said. Hey, Breath of the Wild with all its DLC, up-resed for the Switch 2,
$50.
50 or even 60. It would have been like, okay, cool.
60.
That's the original. I get everything. It's
Yeah.
cheaper than a Switch 2 game, even though it runs on my Switch 2. But no, $90.
$90. It's wild.
That
Yeah,
is
it's just it's crazy. It's really crazy. You read my mind though. We did not collude on this before, but I literally have a note here kind of detailing our order of things to talk about. And at the very end here, I have listed Oblivion, $50, Shadow Drop. Split
yeah,
Fiction, earlier this year, Game of the Year contender, $50. Expedition 33 just came out, Game of the Year contender, getting 9s and 10s. 30 hours is what I'm hearing for the campaign,
yeah,
50
solid
bucks.
game. $50.
$50. So
Blueprints, another potential game of the year contender.
which I don't know. I don't know what that price is because it was on PlayStation
I
Plus
think
Extra, so I played it
you can
for
get it.
my
You can get
subscription.
it with your subscription, but without the subscription, I think it's 30.
Okay, so obviously we're living. Ever since indies have become a big thing and Steam has become more, people are transitioning more to PC in the last 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the Steam Deck. We are seeing that price range, and that's what Nintendo is. That's their corporate speak. We're practicing price variability or whatever they said. We're going to take a look at each product and say, what can we charge you for it is essentially what they call price
Yeah,
variability. But the thing is, we're seeing that both ways. And that's what leaves me, I guess, just as much as I can complain till the cows come home. It is interesting to watch how this is going to play out. Does Nintendo have the what it takes to overcome this and sell these products at this extreme markup because you can't get them anywhere else and they don't go on discount? Or are people going to take a look at the industry at large and go, look, I can get Oblivion, Split Fiction, Expedition 33 at $50. That's less than 60. That's less than the baseline price
yeah,
that most games were a decade ago. So it's really interesting to me. And the thing is, I really hate this whole thing about, well, games cost more to make and they're it's harder to make games now, so they got to charge this and that. And it's like, well, first of all, completely irrelevant when CEOs are taking home the money that they're taking. Like, it's not going to
yeah.
the employees, the people actually cracking the code and making the game.
They
And
cost more because
secondarily,
CEOs are trying to make multi-million
yeah,
dollar bonuses, and
exactly.
corporates need record-breaking year-over-year runaway
Yeah. So
profits. That's
I
why.
hate every time us normal normies defend these companies. They're like, video games are
Totally.
expensive to make. It's like, yeah, how about cut
Stop
half,
licking the boot.
$10 million off your
Yeah.
CEOs? Like, but then the other thing is so many more people play video games now than did 20 years ago, than did
Yeah.
10 years ago. And so if you can sell to twice as many people at $10 less, that still probably puts you out ahead, like in a reasonable profit margin. So,
Yeah.
and we're seeing that. We're seeing studios put out full games. Split Fiction is a full game. Oblivion, albeit old, it's
It's
the
a full
complete
game.
edition. It is remastered. It's a full game. And Expedition 33, by all accounts, sounds like a full game for $50. Not
Yeah.
to mention that, two of these you can get on Game Pass day one.
Yeah.
My Game Pass library that I need to sign up for and do a month, like it is, I don't even think I can play everything I need to in a month on Game Pass right now for $10. So, um, I don't know. I don't know where to go with that discussion. It just is really fascinating to see Nintendo shift hard into this very greedy feeling corporate money grubbing tactic at just what seems like the worst time.
Yeah.
And me just sitting here going, will it impact them or will it not? Because it never seems to. So,
I feel like over the long term, sustained practices like that will hurt them over time. It might be a slow bleed, but I think it will happen. I don't think it will happen noticeably with Mario Kart, or at least not with Mario Kart in the next year. Like I think things are going to look great for them this
right.
next year,
Especially with the
um,
bundle. I mean, that's going
especially
to
with the bun.
really,
In that, yeah, so it's like that kind of throws it off too. But I think over time, if Nintendo really continues leaning in this direction, I think these things will chip away. Like people love Nintendo, people are still going to buy Nintendo. They're still going to do very well, but like you said, I've noticed my behavior too, where there's these other games that I love and want to play on other consoles from other developers. We have a lot of indie up and coming games like Hollow Knight and Silk Song
oh,
are
yeah,
indie
we never
games,
mentioned Hollow Knight getting
right?
kind of confirmed for 2025
Silk
again.
Song,
We'll
yeah,
see.
right. But it's like those are the types of games we get from indie developers. Blueprints is the type of game. Expedition 33 is a relatively small new developer, and I think the upside is there is room in the market for that. And I think the more egregious this gets and the worse things get, people I think will start to turn to these other things out of
Yeah.
necessity, and out of interest. And that could hurt Nintendo if they're not careful.
And what it comes down to is what the normal person is going to do. Because I mean, you and I are pretty hardcore when it comes to video games. We're in the know. We're
We
talking
buy a
about,
lot.
listening
Yeah.
to a lot about this stuff. We're playing a lot of different games. But for me, if Nintendo pursues this, which they are, there's no reason to believe they're
Yeah.
going to change course.
Not unless it hurts
I
them
I will
financially.
buy I will buy the next Mario. I will buy the next Zelda, assuming they look as good as they should. Um, and I will buy Metroid. We don't have pricing on Metroid. If Metroid's $70, I'll probably buy Metroid. That one feels like a stretch to be at 70, but um
They've been
and
working
then
on it for so
like
long. It feels like
what
that's
else?
a
Donkey Kong
glorified, yeah,
Bonanza. If Donkey Kong Bonanza runs well and gets good reviews, I'll probably buy that at 70. But we've listed kind of those are like their four games that I'll buy. And
yeah,
outside of that, I probably won't buy anything from them, especially at full price. And so what it comes down to is everyone else going to continue to buy everything all the time from them? And that's
yeah.
what we'll wait to find out. So,
Yeah. Well, and interestingly, they're making a play to get people more on their Switch console, like better specs, more exclusives. Like I think Nintendo's going for you spend
right.
more time, most of your money on your Switch ecosystem versus it being
But
diversified.
does
But
that
I
even counter? Does that even like bite them back when all of a
it
sudden
could
people are using their console more and they see every other publisher pricing their game $10 cheaper or $20 cheaper?
I think it will necessitate them to adopt some of these things other publishers do. Like you said, I think we'll look at more sales. I think
Sales.
we'll look at I also think it will potentially affect pricing, like where it's like if other publishers have the same game or a very similar game for lower, I think they're going to have to respond to that. And over
Yeah.
time, I think that will.
Well, there's so much more to talk about, and we'll touch on this maybe at some point later in the year again. To end, I just wanted to discuss pre-orders because pre-orders
Right.
disappeared. Tariffs came out; they were different than expected. Perhaps pre-orders disappeared indefinitely, and we were like, "Well, are they going to move the
No
release
Switch
date?
for
Like,
Americans.
what are we
Yeah.
doing here?"
Yeah.
And apparently, pre-orders went live on the 23rd of April, which was um, in the past. I won't date this episode unnecessarily, but it has already happened. And I just wanted to discuss the pre order situation and how yours went. And did you try? Did you get one?
Yeah. Yeah. So pre-orders went live technically midnight Eastern on the 24th, but for most, like other than the East Coast, like for 2/3 of the country, the United States, it was actually at like 9, 10, or 11 p.m. on the 23rd, which almost bit me because I was planning to try and pre-order one. So I had kind of a two-pronged approach. I was like, I'm going to
You had
go,
both prongs,
I had both prongs
both
out,
prongs out there.
exposed, ready to prong things. Uh, um, and so what I was thinking is trying to order these things online. It is really hard, and there's going to be a million bots. Servers are going to struggle, and there's a very real chance I won't get something. So I was like, maybe I should, GameStop, it was doing this thing where you could go into your physical GameStop the day, like the opening hours on Thursday, the release date. And they would have a certain quantity reserved for that store, and you could pre-order in person and get one. Um, and so I was like, I'll have both of these ready to go. I'm going to try the night before and then go in if I don't get one. So I'm at dinner. It's like almost 9 p.m. And then I realize, oh, pre-orders are going live at midnight Eastern time, not midnight for whatever time zone you're in. So I need to get home so that I can try and pre-order this thing. So we get home. I start setting up. I have like both my monitors. I have my phone. I have my wife, like she's on her phone. Like we're gonna try cover
Smart
all our
fridge.
bases. That way that way we can have like Walmart, Target, Best Buy all up. Try and get it from wherever is available. So I was updating my payment methods in my address book, make sure everything's ready to go. 30 minutes before 10, Best Buy servers are just not responding. I guess everybody's doing the same thing, right? But Best Buy was already struggling. I was unable to save any of my payment details or address book stuff 30 minutes before 10 p.m. on Best Buy. It was like every click of their website would just like crash or load really, really slowly. Um, but then, we hit 10 o'clock. Target was kind of my first option. I was like, Target, they seem like they have their stuff together. We'll start there. I refresh the second it hits 10. Like at 9:59, 10 hits, I hit refresh, Target
Before
sold out.
every other million person or
Yeah.
millions of people. You were
Yeah,
the
I
first one.
mean, all right. Target sells out instantly, immediately. It's like this, I'm the split second, it turns
How
10.
does that even make sense on a back end like infrastructure? Like
Well, it turns out they hadn't
it's
sold
just the
out.
website
It's things being
crashing.
wonky. But it
Yeah.
says they sold out. So I'm like, okay, switch to Walmart. Walmart puts me in a queue and it says you're in line. It says we're expecting to sell out quickly. We'll see if we can get you one. And I'm just sitting in like a waiting lobby for Walmart. Best Buy, I still haven't even been able to update my payment information. Um, so then eventually, like 5-10 minutes goes by. I'm refreshing everything. Target refreshes and says they have some in stock. I get one in my cart. I go to check out. It didn't save my payment details. Like that broke because I had already done it, but suddenly they weren't there. So I'm like frantically typing in my payment details. I get that in there and it's not saving my payment details. And so that takes me like 5 minutes of refreshing and trying save again until finally it saves that. Same thing happens with my payment method. Like it's not accepting my like uh, the little 3
Right.
digit PIN number. Finally, I get all
So it's
that in.
exactly what you would expect from
It's
this
exactly
entire
what you expect. I
process.
spend 15 to 20 minutes on Target with one in my cart trying to place an order, and it just keeps saying something went wrong, something went wrong. Finally, I get a purchase confirmation. It goes through. Your order has been placed. You have got to switch to. And I'm so excited. I sit back for a minute, and that's when I texted you. I'm like, I got it, feeling good. Like I'm doing a celebratory lap. I come back and I'm like, I should check my email, make sure I got the email confirmation. I look, your order has been canceled. The order cancellation went out like right after it gave me the order. So it's like, okay. So then I try and go back, and then it's like erroring out. I can't even add to my cart at this point on Target. It's like, oh, okay. So now I'm stuck a previous step back. Best Buy, I finally get my payment information updated, but it like is just going so slow. Nothing is working. They're
Yeah.
erroring too. Uh, we're 45 minutes in. It's like 10:45 p.m. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get one. I've been sitting here for 45 minutes. They have to all be gone. Lo and behold, Walmart's lobby refreshes and says, you have 12 minutes or whatever to buy your Switch 2 bundle. So I go through Walmart. My hands are shaking and it didn't save some of my like trying the delivery address was wrong for some reason. So I'm like typoing my own address and deleting it and like it took me like a full minute to get this added because the adrenaline was pulsing through me. Finally, I get that in. I place the order. I get an order confirmation. Before doing a celebratory lap, I go and look. I get an order confirmation email from Walmart in addition to the page. And I go in the app, and the app says, like, we'll be delivering to you on June 5th. It has the little tracker or whatever.
Okay. This is Walmart.
This is Walmart.
So you've secured one,
I
switch
secured one
two.
from Walmart. And so that was my journey. It was,
When was the
I
last time you felt so alive? You know?
never.
That's really
That's
that's the
it.
true
That, is
The
America
real Switch 2 was the adrenaline that we felt along the way.
right? Is Americans we have to spend to feel things, and so
Exactly.
we did.
Or
Anyway, I
try
got
we have to win the lottery to spend to feel things.
exact right.
We have
Yeah,
to.
we have to be graced with the option to actually spend our money.
So what
Um,
time do you think that went through? You spent probably an hour?
45, 50 minutes, almost an hour. And to this point, I haven't gotten any cancellation from Walmart, so I think I got it, which is great. And then what's funny is I got an order confirmation email from Target at like 10:45, and I was like, oh, did I get two? And I go and look, it's the same confirmation number of the canceled order. Their cancellation email went out before their order confirmation email for
Or
some
they
reason.
uncanceled it?
Well, my card was only charged from Walmart, so I don't think they did. But if a
Yeah,
second
okay.
one shows up, I won't complain. But anyway, I ended up being at GameStop. I called GameStop the next day about something else I wanted to get, and I asked them about the pre-orders, and I was like, "How many units did you get? And like, what was the line like?" Just because I was curious. The GameStop I called, they had like 25 reserved Switch 2 units, which is not that much. It was like 25, 27, something like that. And they said they had 50 people in line before the store opened. So half the people that lined up for a pre-order couldn't get one. Just like what a world to live in
And
where
they didn't know that? They didn't like say, "Hey, we have 25?" That's crazy.
um yeah, because I talked to that GameStop like a day or two prior to the launch, and they were like, we don't know how many units we're gonna get. So
Dude, that's wild.
I think they found out the day of or like the night before. And so you just like, imagine showing up 5 hours early to a Switch thing and not getting it. Like how much of a bummer would that be?
I don't know, man. I do
Anyway,
miss I
yes.
miss the physical release days. The last time I did it was for a
Yeah.
collector's edition of Tears of the Kingdom, and
Yeah.
that was really cool. I waited outside GameStop at like midnight, and there was a whole line, and we were all just hanging out talking about Zelda. You go in, I got my box with all the goodies from Tears of the Kingdom, and it's such a childlike time, and
Yeah.
just like childhood. I remember when I got my original Switch. um I I didn't think I was going to be able to get one, and then a friend just called and was like, we're at Walmart, I think it was, and we've got an extra like voucher here. Like, do you want to come
Or come
just
get
get
it.
us?" It was
Yeah.
midnight, and I'm like, all right. So I hop out of bed, I go to Walmart and picked up my original Switch with them, and these are just like events, and now it's just like refresh on 8 screens, and stressed out, and it's not as good. But anyways, here's my story. You messaged me. I was looking at this. 10:30, you messaged me with your "I got a Switch 2. It was canceled," and I was sitting there. I was watching a hockey game, and I was like, "Oh, that's now? Like that's tonight?" I for some reason I had heard like early May, but I guess that's just Nintendo's direct thing that they're
Yeah.
selling from.
That's direct from
So I was
Nintendo.
like, "Oh shoot, I didn't know. I guess I hadn't really officially decided. Do I want one? Do I not?" And then you messaged me. I think it was looks like 20 minutes later, like 10:50. I might have gotten two of them. And I was like, well, hey now. Okay, cool. Like, but then immediately I was like, he's not going to get two. Like, it's not going to happen. There's not going to be two. And so I hopped on to Best Buy. It was probably around 10:40, 10:50 while I was watching the game. And I had to, first of all, I had to update the app. I haven't opened Best Buy in who knows how long. Updated the app, open up Best Buy, it loads, and I go to Switch 2, and it shows I can click on it. So I clicked on the bundle, and it put me in a loading,
Mhm.
indefinitely loading thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
all right, whatever. I let it sit there while I did other stuff. I was watching the game. 20 minutes later, out of nowhere, opens up the store. I've got a Switch 2 in the cart. It asks me, like, do I want it delivered? Do I want it in store? This, that. Oh, my address is wrong. I switched to the right address. Click purchase, confirmation, email, done.
Did you get
I
it?
was just like,
Did you get a
so
Switch
for my,
2?
I got one.
You didn't
So I
tell me?
have, no,
Jerk. Hold on to that. I thought I was
because it
better
was
than you. I thought I
because
was
it
better
was
than you.
so funny, and so the whole night I was like,
That's
dude, did
hilarious. I
Best Buy
spent an
did
yeah.
Best Buy like figure their crap out? Like, are not a lot of people buying Switch 2s? I was like, that was the easiest I've ever
You know
purchased
what
something
I
like
think
this.
happened with Best Buy is I think they struggle at the beginning because they can't
Hmm.
handle it. People leave
So
because that's what happened to the PS5. We tried
yeah,
Best Buy for like an hour and it sucked. And then 2 hours later before bed, everyone was asleep. I was like, I'll try one more time, and I got two PS5s. So I
So what's so funny is everyone kind of has anecdotally they have their own like, oh, Best Buy's my go-to, Walmart's my go-to. I hate Best Buy, screw Best Buy. Like Best Buy has been where I've gotten pretty much everything when it
yeah,
comes to like day one releases. Are they
Best Buy is where I got
perfect?
my
No.
PS5.
I've had issues, but it's my go-to. I do not touch Walmart. I don't touch Target because they've just never worked for me.
Target
Whatever Best
failed
Buy's
me.
own brand of mess is, it seems to work for me for some reason.
Yeah.
Um,
You know,
and
Walmart was
so
kind of similar. That I was in the waiting queue for like 45 minutes, and then it refreshed in with one in my cart, and I was able to buy it. And it gave me like 12 minutes to shakily update my information. And it's
shakily.
as long as they don't cancel it, still like it still seems like it worked. So
So it was the most casual ordering of a Switch 2 that has ever existed. And I spent the night going like, huh, I wonder like is there not as much demand because people are cutting back, or like did Best Buy figure their stuff out? Interesting. Wake up the next day to all of the YouTube headlines. Switch release is a disaster. Switch, like just everything breaks.
yeah,
And it was really funny. Someone commented like, "Oh, I was doing something with my daughter and I forgot, and I got on at 10:40 at Best Buy and bought one easily." And I'm like, "That's exactly what happened to me." So it just turns out that Best Buy, like, I literally hit it perfectly, waiting a half an hour, 40 minutes,
that was
and
the right
just
time.
didn't touch it. And just, I will say, I was impressed that it just worked. I didn't have to finagle or do anything weird. I just clicked on it and waited, and just waited till it
I wonder
opened
if
up
they
and then bought
that's
it.
just long enough for their IT teams to like scale up their server capacity to be like, oh,
Or a
it's
lot of people to
or
go
people bail,
somewhere else,
or
like you said.
probably a mixture of both. They crank it up a little bit, and then people leave, and you're so when you by the time you get in, you just smooth sailing. Because Walmart was like that. Like by the time I was out of the queue and like no issues, it worked like a dream. It worked like a website should, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
So, anyways, there's
yeah,
my funny story. It was, and to be honest, I hadn't even officially decided, but I was like, if I can get one, I should pre-order because I can decide later. I can cancel it later.
cancel it,
Um,
sell it. Yeah,
and honestly, I'm at the point now where I'm like, do I want one? Is it the right time? But then I think, is the Switch 2 going to cost me more next year and be the
yeah.
same Switch 2? And
That
that's
was
kind of
my
where I'm
thinking.
at, where I'm like, is it going to be $600 next year?
Yeah,
And it's crazy that that's literally what we have to think about. Like,
that was a
I
big thing
should
for me. Is
probably
like
get one now because it might get more expensive.
PS5 already increased their prices, and I was like, I could see Nintendo just doing that. But also, like, we don't know what the impact of tariffs is. Like, are they going to keep going? Are they going to get worse? Even if they end, is it going to be like this weird backlog of things that causes this kind of tailing 1 to 2 year issue? We just have no idea. So
Yeah.
I had the same thought. I was like, I should get it while the price is locked in at what they were originally going to do, and I can get the Mario Kart bundle, so I don't have to pay $80 for freaking Mario Kart. It just made sense, and I'm glad you got one because I thought you're gonna want one, and it's like who knows what's gonna happen. So I'm glad you got it.
Yeah, it worked out. It worked out. So, as much as I'm ready to fight the man, um, like I said, the console price didn't bother me as much as all of the other things that they're doing.
Yeah, same.
So, $500 for a Switch 2 and a Mario Kart, I'm okay with. And then I just am gonna have to pick my battles from there per
Yeah,
game and go from there. But yeah, it's wild that we're in an age where it's like, oh, I'll wait 2 years and get the console for $100 off, and it's like, no, actually, the console might be $100 more in 2 years. Like, what a weird,
what a weird
what
world.
a mess, man, what a mess. So there's
Yep.
my there's my story. It was funny. I got a good kick out of how like it was
I,
the most casual pre-order of a Switch
I
2
spent
that
an hour and a
probably
half
existed.
in front of 8 screens. My cortisol levels were off the
Yeah,
charts, and you're like, do, 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 do,
I'm
do.
like, oh,
Like,
let's see if this. You know what the trick to life, Zach, is apathy. Is disinterest. If you pretend, or even if you
yeah,
pretend to be disinterested, things will work out better.
yeah,
And I was
that's
just
true.
like, I genuinely was like, oh, if I get one, that's cool. If I don't even know if I wanted one. And then there it was.
I
There
don't
it
even
was.
like switches.
Nintendo was like, please take the Switch.
Yeah, I don't even think switches are that cool, but I guess if you'll give me
Yeah.
one.
I think they're pretty dumb. They're for
Yeah.
kids, so I don't even care
Yeah.
what you do, Best Buy.
Oh, you have one? Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
No, that's good.
there's our state of the industry. Is there anything else? I mean, we'll touch on some other stuff, but
I
Nintendo
think
has
those are the main things.
shooketh everything up, and we got to see where it all settles.
Yeah, I think we already talked. The other thing that I like that we're seeing in the industry is Expedition 33 is a Game of the Year contender, $50. Oblivion remake with all DLC, $50. Blueprints is incredible, indie game, $30 are included in your subscription. I do think there are these trends that are happening that I think will
Yeah.
force. I think Nintendo will adapt once it starts to hit them, or they can tell it's going to hit them. So I think we're going to be okay, probably, assuming the world doesn't blow
Yeah.
up. So yeah, assuming the world doesn't blow up, got some
And the
games
truth of
coming.
the matter is that things are worth what people will pay for them. And I truly believe that there are games that are worth $70 or $80,
Yeah,
and there aren't many of them. There are not many of them. Most of them are not. So
yeah,
um, there are games I will pay $70 or $80 for, but they're once
they're
every
rare.
couple
They're
years,
very rare.
probably.
Yeah,
So, all right. Well, if you have any thoughts, feel free to share them with us on all of this. Where's the
yeah.
industry headed? Pricing, Nintendo. Did you get a Switch 2? Let us know, and we'll drop back in later in the year to check the temperature on how the Switch 2 is going once we get more dates and kind of figure out what Sony's got going on and Xbox, and just kind of check on the industry maybe this summer or fall. So thank you for joining us for this kind of offshoot state of the industry discussion, and we'll catch you in the next episode.